Well, here we are on another Saturday morning. Good morning to all of you. Welcome to today's Cichlids and Coffee. Hope you're having a cup of coffee, a cup of your favorite beverage, wherever you are. I am coming to you live from beautiful Nashville, Tennessee. And let's see who we have here. We have TA420NK in the house. Hello to you. And hello, y'all. That's you got a little southern drawl there going. I hear you. Hey, Michael in the house. Miami OB. Good morning from San Antonio, Texas. All right. Nice town. Been there. Liked it. Hey, Dave-O. And Renee, hey, some new names here in the house. Bonnie Lopez. Hello, Bonnie Lopez in Riverside, California. I have certainly been to Riverside many times, having grown up in Southern Cal in Los Angeles. Hey, Wally. Wally's Freshwater Aquatics in the house. Warren Venter. Got a fly in the garage. Nick's in the house. Let's see. We said Robin Rayner, and hey, Whip. Good to see you there, buddy. Hey, how's the AV, Whip? Give me an AV check. Tim Adams in the house. Z-Zip. Uncle Smiley's Aquarium. Love that name. Uncle Smiley's Aquarium. Tim Adams from Wisconsin. Looks like folks are shouting out their location. Wisconsin, and we've got San Antonio and Manuel in the house from Sacramento. I've certainly been there a few times. There used to be a crazy saloon in Sacramento. What was the name of it? It had all kinds of crazy stuff on the walls. Real famous near downtown, I think. I want to say Fanny's. I don't know. Crazy place in Sacramento. Went there when I was in college. 1,000 years ago, we took our buggy up there. Irvin Blaylock in the house. Good morning. Listening while at work. I'm glad you love the videos. Very, very nice of you to say that. GP, another one of my wonderful moderators in the house. S. Martin from Indiana. All right, now we got everybody going. Everybody's calling out. New Jersey. GP's in New Jersey. Dave-O in the Nashville area. Very cool, Dave. You're probably not far from me. I'm over in Bellevue. And Bill D. Okay, we got a good group showing up here. Hey, Jerry. Good to see you there, buddy. Now, for those of you who haven't heard, Jerry and I will be making an appearance. We're going to go hang out and maybe take a little video and have some fun at the Ohio Cichlid Association extravaganza the week before Thanksgiving. So that's going to be a blast. Can't wait for that. A little weekend getaway. Mitty Mac from West Michigan. All right. Are you getting cold weather up there, Mitty? Getting cold here. Got in the 30s. I've got my space heater going here in the fish room, but it's warming up in the afternoon, so it's okay in the afternoon. You can still ride my bike. Dave-O on the other side of the tracks. All right. I know where that is. You're probably closer to the aquatic critter than I am. All right. Audio is good. Thank you, Renee. Appreciate that. Video all right? So, I get a lot of emails from folks talking about this topic of he looked real good. He looked real good when I went to bed last night, and this morning he's dead. Little different from I just did a water change, which is also a very common email I get. I just did a water change, and my fish are gasping. They're hanging around the bottom. They don't look good. That you can usually sort out Maybe there was a massive temperature change while you were filling the tank. You know, someone fired up the dishwasher or the washing machine, and you changed the temperature of your water, or you ran out of hot water, or maybe there was a pH shock of some kind. You forgot to condition the water. There could be a variety of reasons, right? After a water change, so you can kind of get your wits around that. It's those ones that it's the ones that you have no idea. He looked good last night. He was colored up. He was active. He was eating well. And this morning he's flipped over and is on death's doorstep gasping or is gone. And so those are the ones that kind of hang us up because we don't know what the heck happened. So before we get into that, let's go ahead and officially do the kickoff like we normally do. All right, it's official now. We'll do a couple quick shout outs and then we'll go commercial free. Now, I want to tell you folks something. I don't allow YouTube to put commercials automatically into the live stream or put commercials into the live stream while it's live. Instead, I choose an option in the setting up of the live stream that allows YouTube to go ahead and automatically place commercials into the live stream after it uploads. So I just want to tell you something. Very often they'll put 50 commercials. I mean, ridiculous, like one every 2 minutes. I get it, they're trying to make money. And it might take me a day to get to the video and clean it up and get all of that out of there. So if you've tuned into one of my live streams and you've said, what's with all the commercials? I want you to know that they were automatically put in there by YouTube. And then when I get to it, I try and put a live stream commercial, usually like every 15 minutes, maybe something like that. So it's not too intrusive, and I try and put them in spots where there's a natural gap in the video. But it gets annoying because, first of all, after I end the live stream, it's not immediately available to me to edit. I have to wait for YouTube to do its processing on it, and that can be late tonight or it can be late tomorrow night. I mean, it varies sometimes. And then I put like what are called end screens in, like at the end, choices for you to go to other videos. I put in what are called cards, which are other videos that are offered during the video. All that stuff has to occur after it uploads, and the uploads are pretty slow. I mean, I get it. I mean, there's a billion people watching YouTube. There's a lot of, I can't even imagine the data transfer that's going on, so I get it. But just so you know, if you ever pull up a replay of a live stream and it seems like every 3 minutes it's a commercial, it just means that I didn't get to it yet. So that's today's rant. And let's do a couple real quick shout outs. Quick shout out to my friends over at the Aquarium Co-op who do help out the channel with all kinds of cool stuff like auto feeders and filter pads and almond leaves and freeze-dried shrimp and all kinds of cool stuff that I get from the Aquarium Co-op. Thank you so much for your help, Corey, Zenzo, the gang over there. And if you folks would like to support the channel, a very easy way to do it is access Amazon by using this link. If you get to Amazon with that link, you don't have to shop at my store. You can then bounce out of my store and then do your Amazon shopping. But anything you buy gives a small percentage credit to the channel. It's a very easy way to support the channel. Doesn't change your price at all. Your cost of goods stays the same. So it's kind of cool, actually. A cool way to support the channel. And let's see what else. A shout out to my friend Josh, who I think is going to be at the extravaganza in Ohio. Hope to see you there, Josh. Cunningham Tropicals. He is a sponsor of the channel and is offering you a discount of 15% off on fish and 10% off on dry goods. Just use ben.o.15 or ben.o.10 and you'll be able to take advantage of those discounts. I've been using his food, his fry starter. I've been using his earthworm pellets. Those little baby plecos love those earthworm pellets. So I am using his food, and the fish do love it a lot. I mix it into my cichlid blend. He also has some great veggie flake food that I also use. Quite a bit of food, actually. Let me see. Last but not least, let me see. Oh, no, I got two more here. A big shout out to those of you who are Patreon supporters, members of the Garage Gang. Garage Gang. If you'd like to join the Garage Gang, just simply click on the Patreon link underneath the banner on any of my videos, and you'll get information on how to become a Patreon. Starts for as little as $3 a month. Those of you with asterisks near your name are going above and beyond, and you are very appreciated. And last but not least, if you'd like to pick up some channel swag, like t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, now that the cold weather's coming, check out the Teespring store. And again, underneath most of my videos, there's a little Teespring link you can click on that will get you there. So that's it. No more commercials. So let's take a look here at today's topic, and it's happened to all of us, and I would certainly like you folks to participate in the chat and share any stories you have about fish that suddenly departed, and what was your conclusion? What was your after you did your CSI investigation and autopsy? What did you come up with? The things that I've seen. First of all, there is such a thing in the cichlid world, and I've certainly experienced it as stealth killers. And these are fish that, for some reason, while you're watching the tank, perhaps in anticipation that you're going to feed them, they are distracted and are not necessarily working on establishing territory. But when you're not there, not in front of the tank, not a potential source of food, they shift over into their battle for dominance and hierarchy. And this can happen while the lights are on or the lights are off. This is why people tell me, well, can I turn the lights off? Will that give me, will that calm things down? Not really. I had a peacock, a bunch of peacocks I was putting through quarantine in a 55-gallon tank. And it was like every morning there'd be one that was just torn to shreds. And I had to turn all the lights off and maybe just have a night light on and just kind of hang out in the fish room to see what was going on. And I had a stealth, like off the radar nighttime killer that was working. And that was one of the reasons I don't have any peacocks right now. They were just way, way too violent with each other and too territorial. I find that the haps, the haplochromis, and even the protomelis are a bit calmer once they establish the hierarchy. Now, there are always exceptions, as you know from my recent adventure with that eye biter. It's one thing for a fish to become the dominant fish and then patrol the tank. That's one thing. That's very different from a fish becoming the dominant fish and then proceeding to take out other fish. That's a different kind of tank boss. And I think that was sort of where that eye biter was at. It wasn't enough for him to be the boss. He had to be the boss, but also keep other fish in a constant state of high stress. So it was best to get him, out of the tank, which I did. Some of you saw that video. Or that short. I think I showed him actually at the aquatic critter getting acclimated at the fish store in a tank with fish that were 3 times his size and weight. So hopefully someone bought him up and can give him a good home. So stealth killers, that can be a reason. Another reason that I've talked about in other videos is that when you acquired the fish, you didn't know how old the fish was. And the fish sort of like ran to the end of his life cycle and then had some kind of a failure, like an organ failure or something, that had him flip over and die. Very often when fish get old, and I have one of them right now, a turquoise, that's, I can tell, is winding down. When fish get old, very often they sort of cycle down as they go into that sort of last sort of arc of their life. They lose a little color. They're not quite as aggressive in attacking food. They might get picked on a little bit. So you can tell. You can tell sometimes. I've noticed, in particular with African cichlids, when they start to move into that final phase of life. But sometimes they get older, and just like old humans, they suddenly just give up the ghost. Something was not right with them, and now they're older and weaker, and that's it. They're gone. And you beat yourself up. You say, what did I do? Did I not feed him the right food? Was my water chemistry off? Did another fish kill him? And you beat yourself up looking, you go crazy, and it's just a sort of an end of life occurrence. Now, last time I was up in Ohio during the talk that I gave up there, one person in the audience was talking about a study that had, I guess, taken a lot of freshwater fish and examined them and discovered that almost one for one, it was almost impossible to find a fish that didn't have parasites, some type of parasite. And this might include fish that have been put through parasite treatments, but these parasites are extremely hardy and didn't really fully die off or become flushed from the fish with parasite treatments. And so when this fish becomes older, and the fish's immune system starts to become a little less robust, those parasites can start to take more of a hold on that fish. In some cases, you get into the area of the gills, and you notice that a fish is laboring in their breathing, and none of the other fish are. So it's not that your tank is low in oxygen. Just that one fish seems to be laboring, and you might have some parasites that have gotten around the gills. And if they get there, if they're on the gills or perhaps also internally, that fish can flip over on you. And that's the end of that fish. So these are some of the reasoning or some of the ideas that I've certainly looked at and considered. You can also have a gradual decrease in the vitality of the fish because the fish was never getting the right nutrients. An example would be, let's say you keep Mabuna or even Protomelis, and you're not offering vegetables in the diet. You're just feeding a high protein pellet. over time, the nutritional requirements of that fish not being met might result in poor development, maybe some outward signs like a sunken belly or colored down, less active, and so you have a fish that is more prone to things like parasites. So this would be like I don't know how you would classify this, like a slow starving, or a slow, just a gradual denying of vital nutrients, right? And so that can occur too. This is one of the reasons why my fish food is very, very mixed. I have all kinds of stuff in there. I mean, I've got protein, I've got veggies. I don't have them in any particular percentage, but it's just a big mix. And when you look at the food that I feed, you've got all kinds of colors in there. You've got red and brown and green and all kinds of stuff. And the fish love it. They're not spitting out any of it. And then even on top of that, I'll mix in, like I'll throw some bloodworms in here. I've got some of those frozen blackworms from Super Cichlids. I've got some of the frozen worms from, I've got some of those from Cunningham. And so, not the frozen, but the dry from Cunningham and the dry from Super Cichlids. But I also give them frozen worms, and I give frozen krill to the African cichlids. So there's a lot of variety, and that helps. Look at that Geo. Oh, my God. Anyway, all right. So let's see what are your thoughts on this subject. Have you had sudden unexplained deaths? And anyone who's kept a large number of fish for a long period of time has had that, I'm sure, at some point. And what were some of your conclusions? Let's see what you have to say on this topic. I'm going to check out the chat here. Ex-Cali is about an hour east. You're in some pretty country, Ex-Cali. Hopefully you're not so far east that you suffered from some of that hurricane damage. That was rough. GP, the Tampa area can be really nice in the winter. Whip says A&V, terrific. Thanks, Whip. Now I see that after my long discussion. All right. Well, let's get your thoughts as to what you have to say. Hey, Salient in the house. One of my wonderful moderators, along with GP and Vibes and Jerry, and is Denny in the house? Denny might not be here today. All right, so let's see. Mitty Mac, I had the great pandemic of 24 last winter. Bacterial and parasites at once. Lost at least 30 fish before getting a handle on it. Spread it everywhere doing water changes. Ouch! Well, Mitty, a lot of takeaways on that one, right? We all want to use separate siphon hoses, refill hoses, pumps, drainage pumps, glass cleaners. We all want to have a separate set for each tank, but a lot of us don't. A lot of us don't want to, can't afford to, or whatever the reason might be, and choose not to, but yeah, cross-contamination. Big issue, cross-contamination. I did some of that with some Colomaris back in California. Cost me about half my fish. And a combination of problems. A hurried quarantine. And that was the main reason. But did you ever find out or figure out, Mitty, how you introduced it into the aquarium? That would be my question. How did that deadly combination get in there? And my other question for you would be, how did you get it under control? What combination of meds? What did you do to actually get it to stop and ultimately clear up? So if you want to share that, that would be awesome. But yeah, that sounds like a nightmare. And of course, they probably didn't die all at once. Maybe they died, like the problem with those diseases is you go, oh, okay, there were no deaths today. Maybe I've turned the corner on it. And then the next morning you find a fish stuck to the filter. So it can be very frustrating because you get these little setbacks and these minor wins, and then these setbacks occur. So it can be very, very, hey, Denny, there you are. So it can be very, very frustrating. I had that with Colomaris. Every morning I'd come down, despite hitting the tank with some powerful antibiotics, and I think it was Maricin. I was using a Fritz Maricin Plus. Not even sure you can buy it anymore. It's a real strong antibiotic. And it finally stopped, but for some of the fish, the damage was already too far along. And in some fish, it would present in the typical fashion. In other words, they would have that little saddle stripe behind the dorsal that runs vertically on the body. Some of them with Colomaris would just flip over and die because they would attack the organs. So it can be very, very frustrating. All right. Salient says to destroy the like button. Good morning, Aquatic Amigo. Good to see you. If I haven't said good morning to you, it doesn't mean that I don't like you. It just means I haven't noticed yet. But you are important. You rock. Now, this is a really interesting topic that you see tossed around the hobby. And I'll tell you my thoughts on it. And you can share what you think about it. But Irvin is saying, I've heard it's not a bad idea to periodically treat tanks for potential bacteria or parasites just as a precaution. Anyone do that? Now, I've heard that, for example, when people get fish and put them through quarantine, even though there are no signs of disease, they'll hit it with, parasite meds, a general med, an ick med, right? Corey talks about his triple combination that can be used together, because there's some meds you don't want to use in combination. So it's an interesting topic. I don't do it. I don't treat unless I see a reason to treat. In the event of that Colomaris quarantine, if I hadn't cut it short and I had treated, I would have saved myself that issue. So it's one of those things where it's not a problem till it becomes a problem, and because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So I get it. I get why people do that. Now, the other side of that argument, not even an argument, the other side of that discussion is that just like with humans, are we developing superbugs? I've heard that there are forms of ick, which ick is easy. Raise the temperature, hit the tank with a little bit of salt, and usually that'll stop it. Well, there's some ick now. You can't stop that way. It's just too hardy, and you've got to throw some ick in there, and really treat it like for 2 weeks or more, and for a week beyond its disappearance until you're sure it's gone, and then do a lot of deep vacuuming. Like really make sure you get all the eggs and really break up the cycle, get the temp up to about 85. And because it's just a hardier ick, because it's developed, it's these things are trying to survive, and so they're getting stronger, just like super bacteria that you can pick up in a hospital that will not respond to antibiotics and starts to like become flesh eating and very destructive, right? So I tend to just go with medicate when there are signs that show medication is needed. And that might be sometimes an error. In other words, I'm hitting it too late. But that's just the way I've done it. GP says use General Cure in your tank twice a year. Now, you've got the other argument, GP. What about the argument, which Corey says isn't a problem, but some people say is, of unnecessarily hitting the tank with an antibiotic that kills beneficial bacteria? What do you think about that? Are you going to, by treating unnecessarily, could you potentially cause an ammonia spike, restart the cycle, and that produces all kinds of other issues? What are your thoughts about that? Hey, Cotton Man, we are talking about sudden fish death. Has it happened to you? And have you? What did you conclude? What was the reason for it? If you found a reason, and what were your thoughts about it? And that's how we got into this. It's led us to here. Vishwateha? Vishwateha? That's a cool name. Vish, am I saying it right? Vishwa. And is the J and H here? Vishwateha or Vishwateja? Very, very cool. Love these YouTube names. All right. General Cure will not kill BB. Okay. All right. Obviously, you've looked into it, and I do trust you, GP. Other media, other meds definitely can, though. Always use CChem stability alongside any medication. All right. Now, the one thing I've heard never to use with medication are some of your your instant bacterias, right? Like your Fritzyme 7s and things like that, because all you do is kill that bacteria before it's attached and become, actually hardy. It will actually get killed off. If you are medicating and attaching good bacteria at the same time, that can produce a problem. At least that per Fritz. So just something to think about, GP. Now, this is something that you see circulated a lot, especially in Europe, Whip. In Europe, I've heard that it's impossible to get a hold of the stronger meds. Certainly you can't get your like Maricin Plus and things like that in Europe. And so salt is the go-to. Salt, that 1 tablespoon for every 5 gallons seems to be the treatment of choice. Now, GP, with that treatment of something like stability, would you suggest doing that while you're treating? Because wouldn't you just be killing off that beneficial bacteria with the med? Or should you wait till after treatment and then add the stability? So that would be an interesting discussion. And there's no question about that. You see, with the sump, you have the added dilution, of course. You also have the ability to add your meds, water conditioners, things like that to the sump. You don't even have to mess with the aquarium. So on your bigger tanks, definitely sumps are the way to go. Tremendous number of advantages. The Cotton Man says, I treat ick and parasites, but beyond that, I'm not a vet. Yeah, it can get a little bit into guessing, where if you don't pull that fish out and know what you're looking at under a microscope, you really are just shooting in the dark. And sometimes, you hear stories of things getting worse after using meds. So, and you get into like what are called the gram negative, gram positive issues with meds, and it can get pretty interesting. Yeah, Canada, I've heard that is the case up in Canada, that you cannot get your hands on strong meds. Romaine Blake has a question about Epsom salt. Now, I know kosher salt. I think Epsom might be one of the other ones that's okay to use and a lot less expensive than your aquarium salt. I've been using the Fritz Plus, the Fritz Salt Plus, which I think might even have a probiotic in it. But that's what I've been using, the Fritz Aquarium Salt Plus. But I think Epsom is good, and I think if you're treating, I think it's one dissolved. Be sure to dissolve it like in a cup first. One dissolved tablespoon, which seems like a lot. When you're doing it, it seems like a heck of a lot. But one dissolved tablespoon per 5 gallons. So. And some people will do what are called salt baths. Well, they'll do even more than that, like a tablespoon per gallon, and they dip the fish in there for a minute or so, and then pull them out and put them back in the aquarium, but give them like a salt shock of sorts. But I think Epsom might be one of the salts that's safe to use. If you folks know, go ahead and chime in. Salient has moved all his tanks to the garage. Wow, okay. My only concern is temperature variation, because garages don't seem to be that well insulated. I've got I just got from somebody who wanted to do a collaboration. I just was sent one of these. This is called it's a portable space heater, and the company looks like it's called Larat, L-A-R-A-T, Larat, and it's a ceramic 1,500 watt unit. You can make it out here. They're also, I'm not sure if you can see it on the chat screen. Let me change screens here. There we go. From a company, Larat. 1500 watt ceramic, and I've got 1000 watt Dr. Heat running right now. This is a lot smaller, a lot more compact. I'll do a review on it. They're also going to send me, and I'm waiting for the second thing they're sending so I can do the review on both at once. They're also sending me a coffee cup warmer. So it's something that activates when you put your cup on it, and it keeps your coffee warm. So when they contacted me, I said, yeah, that would be perfect for my live stream, because by the end of the live stream, my coffee can be a little cooled down. Still good, but not hot. So they're going to send me that, and then I'll do a review on both of them at once. But you might need a space heater if you're going to be in your garage, Salient. All right, I'm looking at the chat. Salient, looks like you're doing it right. Insulated the garage and installed a split. That's like perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now you have officially a man cave. Your own man cave. A place to escape. Hey, Angelo. Cat Sailor had a wedding. Nice. I'm going to be gone in about 2-3 weeks at my son's wedding in Northern California, up in wine country. Should be quite an adventure. There'll be no live stream that weekend. I'll let you know in advance. There's going to be over about 120 people there. It's going to be like a combination family reunion and wedding. I can't wait. Cotton Man, the only success I've ever had with bloating was a bit of a miracle. It was years ago, and I had an autopharynx tetrastigma that ended up being a beautiful showstopper for several years. But he got so bloated he looked like a porcupine. In other words, he got so bloated that his scales like stood up, you know. Eyes were bulging. I put him in a 5-gallon tank and I hit him with salt. And it took about 3 days and he was back to normal. It was like a miracle, because I thought this guy's going to die, but I'm going to try anyway. But salt actually got, salt also works as a powerful laxative, and it got him going. So that was what worked for me. Well, there you go. Sometimes Whip is talking about a misdiagnosis. Sometimes the cure, you hear that old saying about the doctor saying, well, the surgery was a success, except we lost the patient. So sometimes the cure can be a little bit harder than the what's going on. Well, the fact that you're saying that your fish got a little skinnier there, Vish Watahe, the fact that you're saying that your fish got a little skinny makes me think that it might have been a parasite. Or that fish was subdominant and was not being allowed to get to the food by bigger, more dominant fish and wasted away. I had a version of that happen with those albino Ochart. The one dominant albino Ochart is doing amazing. He's at a point now where he almost eats from my hand. But the other ones, I think, were so compromised in their vision, they couldn't see and get to the food, and were so outcompeted that they wasted away on me. Finally, when I separated them out, they were too far over the line, and one by one I lost them. That was an expensive experiment. I ended up with one very hardy, aggressive eater who is a showstopper. And so, but to end up with 1 out of 5, that's a difficult price to pay. So this is one of the reasons why you have to really pay attention when you feed. And perhaps I should have paid more attention while I was feeding those guys. And sometimes you have to do like spot feeding, where you watch where that subdominant fish is hanging out, and you lure the dominant fish to one side of the tank, and then you quickly drop a little bit of food over that subdominant fish. And sometimes that can help that fish to get strong enough so that they can compete with the rest of the fish. In this aquarium here, the slower, like the believe it or not, the Jack Dempsey, the Green Terror, the Nicaragua, they really don't have a chance if I don't feed, and the electric blue Ochart, who's probably in the cave over here, they don't have a chance if I don't feed on the far corners of the tank. Because the Oscar, the Vieja, the two Oscars, the Geos, and to some degree the silver dollars, they dominate the tank at each level. From the top with the Oscars to the mid section, right, with the Geos and then the bottom, you've got the silver dollars and the other. So the less aggressive eaters don't have a chance at getting at the food. So I've got to really feed all over the place. I haven't heard, Brian, we should probably have included your comment or that topic in the sudden death list, because a sudden death malfunction from a heater can also create a sudden death in your tank. And I had one heater that I believe malfunctioned and then somehow self-corrected, and so it looked like it was operating okay, but all the fish were dead. And it was only later that when the heater started showing an error message, that I realized, this heater must have hiccuped, gone up into the 90s, and then maybe there was a power outage and it reset somehow. But I think bacteria can survive at a range, at a fairly wide range of temperature. It's probably more important that it have oxygen. If you have a tank that becomes oxygen depleted, because all of a sudden you've lost surface tension breakup or you've lost water movement, that could probably be harder on beneficial bacteria than a temperature drop. A gradual temperature drop is usually tolerable by both fish and bacteria, as far as I know. Kent AJDK in the house. Hello to you. Tiffany Clark in the house. Tiffany, I talked about this in a video and a while back about how fish keepers very often can operate, they operate in a state of anxiety, and it can take the fun out of fish keeping. You should really just enjoy the fish and realize that, fish do, they do pass away. I mean, at the end of the day, and I've said this many times, that these fish are in a glass box. It's very different from what's going on in nature, and stuff happens, and the hobby should be a hobby that is a source of relaxation and joy, and not one that has this cloud of anxiety hanging over it. And I'll tell you one thing: don't get into big African cichlids, or even large aggressive South Americans, because that adds another layer of anxiety, where everything is perfect, but that little switch flipped in the head of one of the fish while you were sleeping, and that fish went on a rampage, and you wake up the next morning and you've got several deaths. I brought my wife down this morning to look at some plants. I put some beautiful red plants in the planted community tank, and I said, "Hey, honey, come on down, check out what I did to the community tank." I go, "Here's the tank where fish don't kill each other." And her comment was along the lines of, "I'll never understand why you keep fish that kill each other." So I guess I'm a little crazy. All right. There you go, Brian. I hope that helped. I hope I was able to get to most of your questions. If I didn't, I'm sorry. It's not because I don't like you. It's not because I ignored you. I hope that helped, Tiffany. Tiffany, I'm going to give you the best tip I ever heard with Mabuna. Create vertical condominiums. Your caves don't have to be on the substrate. Build up some caves that work up towards the back corners and create multi-level caves, and you'll have a very interesting Mabuna tank. I might even do that someday. Cat Sailor, yes, it is. It's been an interesting year, not without some setbacks, but overall, 2024. I was looking at that video I put out at the end of last year, beginning of this year, about 2024 bucket list or 2024 goals, and I still have in the back of my mind that discus tank, and but I really want to put the discus in a tank that's been established for a while. So I'm going to have to put them into that 90, do something, because I'll tell you, newer tanks, and by newer tanks, I mean tanks that are under 9 months, that have been running successfully for 9 months or less, are a bit fragile. They are a bit touchier than a tank that's been running for several years, especially if that tank has a substrate that's been left relatively alone and has just a real strong beneficial bacteria base. So, and when you think about like being able to put fish in tanks and have no issues whatsoever, it's usually in established tanks. And the newer tanks can be finicky. They can have little spikes in ammonia that stress out the fish and predispose them to illness, get parasites going. And then when you test it, it's already stabilized, so your test results are okay. So you don't know what's going on. So I really want to have an established tank to put those discus in, because I know they're touchy. So it's still on my list. The year isn't over. I might just order up a batch. but we'll see. Now I've got those 6 redhead Tapajos, and those are probably going to go into the 90. Maybe I'll put them into the planted. I mean, what do you think? Do you think the geos are going to destroy the plants? Maybe I'll just put them in the 90, because maybe they'll destroy the plants. Maybe they'll try and eat those ember tetras, the little teeny ember tetras, which I've become very fond of. So we'll see. Lots of moving parts. But 2024 has overall been a great year. And, you know, I hope it just keeps getting better and better for all of you. Tiffany, I saw that condo idea. Yeah, I think it'll look great. Tim has a group of Yarus. I'd love to get a group of those. Now, Tim, did you just pick up like 5 of them or something? I think I might have seen. Did you post a video? I think I saw something somewhere. And those are very pretty fish. I think it's the fish that got Joey, the king of DIY, going, right? That's why his name on Instagram is Joey Yaru or something like that. All right. Lionel wants to know how I feel about buying discus. That's how I'm going to get my discus. I'm going to buy them online. I think it's called something fishy. I'm going to buy one of their starter packs where you can pick up like 10 of them for a relatively low price. And but I don't want them too small, because when they're really small, they're super fragile. Talk about unexplained death. They just flip over and die. So, and I think his have been bred, you know, locally, and so I mean, you know, in tanks. So, but I think I'm going to buy them that way, and then grow them out, and just see, like, buy a couple packs of 10 and see what happens, and pick them up at about a third the price I'd pay locally. I mean, you can buy big ones locally, but you're going to pay $125, and they come with no guarantee. So, so that's how I'm going to go. So stay tuned, Lionel. Let me be the I'll be the guinea pig for you. But I will be putting them in a very established tank. Well, thank you for that, El Cancilieri, and a big hello to you, and thank you so much for being in the background. You're part of the lurker crew, which is very appreciated. It's okay to lurk the live stream. Thank you, Cotton Man. Encouraging everybody to hit that like. Definitely hit it with a like on the way out. Today's live stream has been brought to you free of charge. All we ask as a fee is one thumb up. And maybe a subscribe if you're feeling generous. Doesn't mean you can't super chat. Tiffany has about 100 polar bear blue parrot cichlids growing out. Oh my goodness. I think you can take them to a local fish store, see if they take them after they grow out. You're like me with my plecos. I've got about 100 baby plecos. And I'm just going to take them to my friends over at the Aquatic Critter, and they'll give me a credit. An Aquatic Critter credit. All right, my friends. It is on the hour. I want to thank all of you for joining in. You do rock, my friends. You are very appreciated. Thank you to my wonderful moderators, the best moderators on YouTube. Thank you to all my wonderful Patreon supporters, my monthly supporters. You are the best. And that being said, I think we will go ahead and end off for the weekend. I will be back next weekend, but I think the weekend after that, I think I'll be at my son's wedding. More on that later. And as I said earlier, if you are in Ohio, I hope to see you at the Ohio Cichlid Association Extravaganza the week before Thanksgiving. I think it's the weekend before Thanksgiving weekend. All right. So there you go. Thank you, my friends. I've got a lot of work to do in the fish room. Gonna work on some filters, maybe do a water change, maybe fill in a pit that the Malawi trout is defending, which is creating a problem with the Koingi. But we'll see. We'll see where that goes. Thank you, my friends. See you next week. Bye-bye.